This on the table is a Shrunken Bison side, and it's a product that Horween is calling Yellowstone. And you may have seen this color on the channel before. It's really striking. I actually had a Fat Herbie made for myself in this Shrunken Bison. We wanted to test it out to see if it would translate properly to all the wallets that we make. So now that we're comfortable in crafting this leather into our products, we're finally able to announce that we'll be releasing some private stock wallets in the next couple of weeks. Our goal is to have the next event for private stock come out before the end of the month, so we're hoping to have that come out next week. So let's look at some of the details of this brand new leather. Like I mentioned, it is a Shrunken Bison hide. This product is called Yellowstone. The side on the table happens to be in the blue color. I do have a special surprise at the end of the video. We have a new color that nobody's ever seen before. To my knowledge, this Yellowstone leather is the only vegetable tanned, shrunken, and hand-tipped bison product around. I don't think you're ever going to find anything just like this, maybe for a long time, but Horween has started to do it and it's come out great. Let's talk about what each of those terms mean. So vegetable tanned means that this leather was tanned using tree barks and there is no chrome salts in there. You tend to get leathers that develop a little bit more nicely when it is more vegetable tanned. Think of the way that wood ages as opposed to the way that metal ages. That's how vegetable tanned leather works. And of course, the other unique obvious thing is the texture. Now, this is an exaggerated texture of bison hide. The tannery has naturally shrunken the grain layer on these bison skins to get this interesting sort of pebbled, puckered up look, and it's a beautiful look. You'll notice that the texture is very different all over the skin. There are other leathers in the world that do sort of a fakey version of a bison where they print the texture into the skin. The texture in the neck of the bison skins tend to be much more coarse, like you can see up here. It's actually a very interesting look, and it's a little bit more fine, yet still quite coarse, generally speaking, in the hindquarter and the bend section of the skin. So we've got incredible aging characteristics, a really intense grain character, and on top of that, we have a beautiful depth of color. For depth of color, I actually have something to demonstrate for you. This little cutting I have in my hand is the crust color for this blue bison. You can see it is also drum dyed, so we've got the blue color that penetrates all through the substance of the skin. You can see the color is much different on the surface of the cutting that I have. What Horween has done to finish this leather is a process called hand tipping. Hand tipping is a very special finish application method that many tanneries do not perform, and that's because it takes quite a bit of work. So you start with a crust color here. It's a little bit more of like an electric blue. The finisher will take a soft cloth or a sponge or a rag, any applicator, dip it in some darker stains, and then apply it only to the tips of the texture. The result of the tipping method, especially on this example here, we get a little bit more of a navy color on the peaks of the texture, and then the valleys of the texture retain that lighter, and in this case, a little bit more of like an electric blue color. Here's a closer look at the Fat Herbie that I've been wearing and we're testing for the last couple of months. The thing about this leather that I've noticed is it is very tough and resilient. So in addition to the hand tipping, the finishers have also applied a very tough finish over the surface. It also happens to be a pretty bright finish, a little bit of a brighter luster than most leathers. So if you were to compare this to a popular leather like Chrome Excel, it's much more bright and shiny and filled in when compared to the Chrome Excel. When you compare it to something like Shell Cordovan, it's not as bright and shiny and mirror-like as the shell, but it is a really bright luster. With the combination of that brighter top coat on the Shrunken Bison and that hand-tipped look, it almost has this sort of sugary effect, which you can see at certain angles as I rock the leather around. It sort of has this like a little bit more of like a sparkly luster, which is kind of hard to describe. Okay, I mentioned we have a special surprise. I love the blue Yellowstone here. This blue color is beautiful, but we also have another color. Now here is the first ever appearance of Bourbon Yellowstone. So bourbon is the color and Yellowstone is the tannage. We have the same concept as the blue Yellowstone we looked at, just with a different color. So we have a little bit more of these orangey tan colors in the valleys of the texture, and then it's a little bit darker and more of a true brown on the peaks. We also have retained that same bright, shiny luster because the tannery, like I said, has applied a little bit of a brighter top coat and then plated it with a smooth plate. So you get a really glassy, almost wet shine on both of these colors. Lastly, I wanted to mention again that we're going to be doing some private stock. I know a lot of people have been waiting for the next batch of private stock. We are working on those right now in the room I'm standing in. They're coming soon, hopefully next week. I want to show you the first ever wallet made from this brand new Bourbon Yellowstone. So take a look here. This is a tall Herbie made in that beautiful texture. And I love this wild variation, a natural variation on the Shrunken Bison. It's great to show it off on a wallet like the Tall Herbie here. I cut this one in particular to demonstrate the variance of the textures. On the outside of the wallet, I've cut a little bit more of the coarse texture, so it's a little bit more towards the neck texture that I was referencing earlier. The pattern is much more spread apart, so like a little bit more linear almost. And on the inside, I've cut it more from the bend area of the animal, where the grain tends to be a little bit tighter, so the texture is much less dramatic than the texture on the outside. Only a handful of wallets have been made in the blue Yellowstone so far. I think maybe like 5 or 6 exist in the world. I'm really excited to get this out into more people's hands to see what you guys think. From my experience wearing it, it's amazing. I love the look of it. I love this waxy feel that it has. And I think the best part of it is how resilient this leather is. It really does not want to scratch. My suspicion is the tannery has applied a little bit more of a strong and tough top coat to the top of the peaks of this texture, which is, again, resisting some abrasions, scratching, things like that. I've just found it to be really well wearing. So I can't wait for many of you to check these out over the next coming weeks and months. If you want to be the first to know about the next private stock event that will include the brand new Yellowstone leather, stay tuned to the channel here. We also have our newsletter. So whether you're on our YouTube subscriber list or if you're on the Ashland Leather newsletter, you will be getting an advance notice for when the next private stock drop will be. I'm hoping to have that next week, but I'm not yet ready to commit to you. So thanks again so much for checking out the video today. Hopefully you enjoyed looking at this new leather. Until next time, hope you have a good one.